The Razzies
Yes.
are for me the only ones I actually do take any interest in. But I mean, strictly speaking, it should be my big fat Greek wedding vomit-inducing pile of Kovasarka 3.
I do.
You do. So, welcome to Flickering Dreams again. We're recording this on Burns Night, hence the Scottish flag behind Scott Forbes' head. And he's already eaten his wee timorous beastie for his Burns Night supper. But we're going to be talking movies again here on Flickering Dreams, and the movies we're talking to at length today are The Colour Purple, the new musical version, The Holdovers, The End We Start From, and on Netflix, The Kitchen. And joining me today are Emma Sewell from Emma at the Movies, Scott Forbes from the Forbes Film and TV Review on Facebook, Reverend Andy Godfrey from Connect Radio and Sorted Magazine, and Dan Cook from the Dan Cook Movie Review, also on Facebook. And we are going to start with The Colour Purple. Scott, can you introduce that to us?
I'd love to, Bob. So, The Colour Purple, I remember seeing the original version when I was a lot younger, 1986 version, which famously got 11 Oscar nominations with 0 wins. I'm pretty sure that's still a record that it holds. This new version is a musical version, which, like the recent Mean Girls film, was taken from the film to the stage as a musical, and now it's back to a film again. It's directed by Blitz Bazawule. Sorry, I've totally butchered her name. And it's got an all-star cast, which you'll see in this clip.
You got to stand up.
I know my sister somewhere in the world. Someday we're gonna meet again.
Keep your head held high, just like Mom taught us.
This time I'll be free from you and then turn to creation.
I'd die before I let that happen.
Good. That's just the going away present I've been needing.
Oh!
Okay, Scott, carry on. I think we may have some different views on this film. I think I might be the outlier, but you go first.
Yeah, so for me, I had been looking forward to this film for a good couple of years. It's been delayed quite a bit for one reason or another, but it's finally come. And yeah, I'm a big fan of musicals, which I know actually pretty much all of us, I think, here are musical fans. So I was looking forward to seeing what this version would be, knowing that the story is quite deep and there's a lot of serious drama involved. So I wasn't sure how that was going to translate to a musical, but it does very well. This film tells the story of a young girl who is basically taken by an older man to become his wife, and she is separated from the people she loves. And it's about the abuse that she suffers and the people that she meets along the way that try to help her. I did enjoy this very much, with some slight reservations. So in terms of the performances, pretty much outstanding across the board. You've got Danielle Brooks, who got an Oscar nomination for her supporting role. I think Taraji P. Henson deserved one too. I think Coleman Domingo deserved one. But then you've got a whole stacked cast. Louis Gossett Jr., Corey Hawkins. You've got Little Mermaid, Halle Bailey. Loads of other people. It's led by Fantasia, who plays the main role. General audiences may not know who she is, but she won, I think it was season 3 of American Idol many, many years ago.
Oh, okay.
To be honest, hasn't really done much since. I've never been a big fan of her voice, speaking or singing, and that kind of holds in this as well. I know she's a good singer, but there's something very nasally about her that is just a little bit annoying for me. So, supporting cast amazing. Fantasia, good, but I would have preferred someone else maybe. The story is harrowing, and if you've seen the original, you know what it's going to be like. This holds true again, except it has the lighter tones of having song and dance to break it up. In terms of the technical side of it, production amazing, costumes amazing, singing and dancing in general is fantastic. This is just a very, very well-made movie. I do think it's a little bit too long. There was a point later on in the movie where I thought it was going to end, and it carried on, and then there was another song, and then another song, and I was like, wait, when is this going to end? I thought the story was wrapping up, but no. I wanted this to be one of my favourite films of the year. I had hugely high expectations for it. It's not going to make my top 10 of the year, but I was still very impressed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Emma?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I think it is a shame that it wasn't plugged more as a musical. As you say, it seems to be the thing at the moment to trick people into seeing musicals.
It was actually a surprise to the illustrious Mrs. Movie Man that it was a musical. That passed it by completely. Yeah.
After watching the trailer, I mean, that gave me goosebumps. I was like, I'm really looking forward to seeing this now. And I went into it. I was finding it very interesting, but I was like, I'm not really getting quite that emotional hit I was expecting to get and I literally thought that, and then 2 minutes later, me and half the audience were sobbing. I was biting my lip because I felt like I was going to start wailing with crying. And I mean, Danielle Brooks playing Sophia, I thought she was absolutely amazing. And I mean, her performance, if she doesn't win something, I'll have to start a riot or something. I don't know. I thought the chemistry between everyone was fantastic. And, as you say, just the whole production of it, I thought was incredible. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, I can't argue with a lot of what you guys say in terms of, I mean, it's a movie that's full of life and colour. And I agree with you that the production design, the lighting, as a technical film to look at, some of the scenes were simply wonderful. The bit where Shug Avery arrives on the boat across the water to what's his name's bar was
Harpo's bar. Yeah,
that's right. Harpo's bar was simply wonderful. It reminded me of that wonderful scene where James Bond arrives in Skyfall in Macau. Right, that same sort of atmosphere and so on was so good. And that scene that we saw in the clip there around the dinner table, where certain people become more assertive, I thought that was really terrific. So there were moments in here which I thought, wow, that's really great cinema, and I enjoyed it. But overall, it just didn't connect with me personally, and I think I'm probably going to be an outlier on this given some of the views from elsewhere on it. But I think one of the reasons here is that I know I went to see this with the illustrious Mrs. Movie Man sitting next to me, and I know films which absolutely upset her are ones which have any sort of child abuse or marital abuse. And as this thing started, I thought that they haven't toned this down at all. In fact, one of my criticisms of the film was, is this really a 12 certificate film, given the themes of incest and child abuse and marital abuse and violence against women? And it just thematically, the thing felt, I know 12 covers everything from just above PG to just before 15, but this one felt right at the top towards 15 to me, just in terms of the mood of the film and so on. So I spent a lot of the film thinking, is the illustrious Mrs. Movie Man going to lean over to me and say, I can't stand this anymore, I'm going out? And that set me on edge to not enjoy the film. As it was, I can't figure her out sometimes, right? The marital abuse and the whacking that went on didn't bother her. in this particular film, and she enjoyed it, and she gave it 8 out of 10, right? Together with our friend, the saintly Sarah Shaw, who came with us, she also gave it 8 out of 10. So they both enjoyed it. I just couldn't get connected to this film at all. And there were a few really odd directing decisions, I thought. For example, at one time they spend the 2 young girls who were very good in this. I thought Halle Bailey. I keep saying Halle Berry. Halle Bailey, who played the young Hetty, she and Celie ended up on the beach at one point in Georgia, and you thought, well, this is a most peculiar beach setting with these really strange trees on the beach growing, really nice cinematic setting. But later in the film, there's a scene set in Africa, and it's on the same beach with the same trees growing. And you think, well, is this supposed to be some kind of throwback to the stage musical where they wheeled on some kind of palm trees on the beach and said, oh, we're on the beach now, so we better do the same thing? I thought that was really odd because it took me completely out of the film, and for that moment. So I don't know why they did that. It strikes me as a curious directing decision to do that. I mean, I originally gave this one a 7 out of 10 because I kind of felt I should like it, right? And then I wrote my review this afternoon, and I had all these negatives and very few positives, and I ended it saying I really ought to give it another chance and watch it again, because maybe I just wasn't in the mood and I didn't enjoy it. But I decided, look, if I want to see another film again, I'll probably want to go and see Poor Things. I wouldn't want to go and see this again. And that made me think, well, that's not a 7 out of 10 in my book, right? So I've actually given this a 6 out of 10 because it just didn't connect with me. Emma?
I went 8 on this one.
8 out of 10, so that's 14. Scott?
I also went 8 out of 10.
Okay, so that's 22, which gives us... I'm glad I didn't drag it under, because I would get all sorts of shit from everybody on the internet, I'm sure. So that gives us a Flickering Dreams score for the new version of The Colour Purple of 7.33, making it a hit.
It just sounds odd hearing new version of Colour Purple.
Yes,
it does.
It's a curious title, isn't it? Because The Colour Purple seems to be almost shoehorned in there in a little line in the film. Maybe it makes more sense in the book, but there you go.
Same in the original film as well.
The original film as well,
same in the original film. Right, let us now do a little bit of this.
Here we go.
Well, the music is filled me with dread every week now.
Yeah, I mean.
Right, so it's time for our movie quiz, and as per normal, I'm going to show you 5 pictures from a movie in the top 1,000 box office films. I randomly select a number, and this number is way up there towards 1,000. So,
oh goodness!
Oh, great!
Well, look,
this could be
random.
fun.
It's random. So here comes picture number 1.
Oh,
You know it, Emma?
Oh,
yeah.
Emma's written one down already.
I really hope it's right. I'm going with it. I've got to get these points back somehow.
you need to get
Okay.
Not a clue.
Wow.
Yes, guy overtook me.
Okay, let's see if Emma's so smug after picture number 2. She probably is, actually.
Yep.
Well, I'm not.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Ah,
Yeah, okay. Where's my
I'm
pen?
struggling this week. No.
Oh, I don't know where my pen is.
Oh. Ooh.
Wait a second, I'll write it on my phone.
Write it on your phone. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, here comes picture number 3.
Yeah.
Oh, what was it called? All right, yeah.
Okay, I think you've all got something here.
This was in the
Here's
top
picture-
What I think
1,000.
it is, did it really make the top
I
1,000?
was just thinking the same thing.
Unbelievable.
Picture number 4 coming up.
It is a fun film, to be fair.
It's fine.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
finally,
I believe you.
I think
Not
you're all
got
on
lots of us
the same page here. Picture number 5.
Yeah. Oof.
Okay, show me what you got.
All right. I don't know if you can see it, actually.
Oh, hang on.
Oh yeah, I can. That was on picture number 2. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Romeo and Juliet. Yep.
okay, what were you on, Andy? I can't see what
Picture
number it's
number
on.
3.
3. So that's 50, 40, 30.
I've never actually seen it,
Andy.
so I will take your word for it. that it's
Emma, you
fun.
got it in 1.
I think you'd like the soundtrack, Andy.
Okay, I will check out the soundtrack for
Scott,
sure.
you got it in 2. Was it?
Yep, 2.
It's Elton John, isn't it? The soundtrack.
So that's
Mostly Elton John,
40.
yeah.
Oh well, I would like it
And
then.
Dan, you got it in 2 as well, yeah?
Yep.
So that's
Has it got
40.
David
So
Bowie on it. The Laughing Gnome. That's one they should have gone for.
That's a good idea.
So, a quick look at the scores. Very exciting because Emma and Scott are in joint first place with 250 points. Andy is a little bit behind on 220 points.
A little bit.
And Dan is on
Little
90
bit.
points. So, he's only played, this is only his fourth game. So, yeah, there we go. That's the movie quiz. And for anybody out there who couldn't read small writing, here's the answer. It's actually number 924
Wow.
in the list of top 1,000 box office films, Romeo and Juliet. I hope I got all those because I can't remember the film very well. I hope all of those pictures were from Romeo and Juliet and none
They
were
did a
from its
sequel, didn't they?
Sherlock Gnomes. Yeah.
Sherlock
Yeah,
Gnomes,
I was going to say, yeah.
Which is quite a good pun, isn't it, for a film title? We're going to move on now to a film that came out last Friday. Again, we're back in Oscar territory here. Most of the big films coming out have some chance of award success at the moment. And that is The Holdovers. Andy, can you introduce the clip for us?
Last week I briefly introduced this and I gave it 10 out of 10. The Christmas film that wasn't and should have been and will be. Here's a clip.
Sir, I don't understand.
That's glaringly apparent.
I can't fail this class.
Oh, don't sell yourself short, Mr. Coates. I truly believe that you can.
Every year at Barton Academy, students, faculty, and staff depart the campus for a 2-week winter break. But there are always an unfortunate few who have nowhere to go for the holidays. They're known as the Holdovers.
Don't you just miss those old 70s trailers with the voiceovers?
Absolutely.
Paul Newman and Steve McQueen risk death in the towering inferno. Yeah, wonderful. Andy, you want to carry on talking about the Holdovers?
I mean, the trailer there summed up what the plot is all about. We saw that 4 students originally are held over in the school for the Christmas holiday. 4 of them managed to, 5 students originally, 4 of them managed to escape, leaving 3 central characters left in the boarding school. So we have Paul Giamatti as the grumpy old, much disliked teacher. We have Divine Joy Randolph and Dominic Sessa. And as we know, Paul Giamatti and Divine Joy Randolph have already got awards at the Golden Globes. Rightly so, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. This is an excellent film. This made me feel like I was back in the 70s. It reminded me very much in the way it's shot of The Graduate, and the soundtrack has very much a Simon and Garfunkel vibe. I've been listening to the soundtrack on rotate all week because I think the soundtrack is absolutely superb. Some great songs accompanying the film. There's some real wonderful moments I didn't expect. Moments when they escape from the grounds of the school and go off to a Christmas Eve party. They go off to visit Boston and have a look at the historical sites. There were moments like that I didn't expect. I thought it had a touch of Dead Poets Society about it. Mm-hmm. Early on, there was a touch of The Breakfast Club about it. But what is so great, as that trailer illustrates, even in a very limited way, is that David Hemingson's script is so sharp and so witty, and this is a film that will bear repeat viewings because you want to get every single line. You won't want to miss a line, I can't fail this class, so don't sell yourself short. I mean, that is absolutely genius. And I thought that the whole scene was, I really enjoyed it. It's definitely going to become a Christmas tradition. It's a film that I've already slated to say I'm going to watch this every Christmas. But people have said to me, I'm not going to go and see it because it's a Christmas movie. No, go see it. Go see it when it's in cinemas. Go see it on the big screen. There's some beautiful vistas. The performances are terrific. The soundtrack is great. Don't wait for next Christmas to see this. Go and see this now. You won't regret it. It is an absolute massive hit, and I gave it 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Okay, Dan, you've seen The Holdovers, I think.
Yeah, I've seen it as well. I thought it was great. I didn't love it because I feel like around Oscar season you always get this type of dramedy type film, a bunch of people coming together under odd circumstances, and which I like. I like those kind of films, but it hasn't been. It isn't. It's not completely original, as you say. Dead Poet Society. There's a bit of Capra in there as well. I think there's definitely a sense of Capra, and there's also a bit of Wes Anderson in there as well for me, just a little bit. And I was thinking of Rushmore, which is one of my favourite Wes Anderson films. And
yeah, that's a good.
And then it plays the song "The Wind" by Cat Stevens, which is in the soundtrack to Rushmore. So I was like, oh, okay, so maybe Alexander Payne knows as well.
Maybe it's deliberate. Yeah.
Maybe. I think, talking of Alexander Payne, he directed one of my favourite films from a few years ago, which was Nebraska, starring Bruce Dern, which was in black and white. And watching The Holdovers, I thought, as much as I loved the cinematography and the vistas, that I think it would have been really effective in black and white, that kind of film. But I really liked it. I mean, I used to go to boarding school, so I used to sing in a cathedral choir, so I used to have to be staying over during the Christmas period. So it kind of rang a few familiar bells for me. But no, I thought it was great. Paul Giamatti's fantastic, and I think in any other year, if he wasn't up against Cillian Murphy, I think he'd be dusting off his award shelf for an Oscar.
Yeah, I've written exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's a real shame because I love Paul Giamatti, and when he worked with Alexander Payne in Sideways, that's arguably his best performance, up until The Holdovers. I don't know how they did the lazy eye effect. They're not revealing that. I don't know if it was a prosthetic eye or computer generated eye.
They can say no. They won't tell you.
No, but it's you forget about it very quickly. It just becomes part of the the skewed character that Paul Giamatti's playing. I really enjoyed it. I think the performances throughout are great. I love the sense of, as Andy says, it feels like a film that's been pulled right out of the 70s. Hal Ashby is old. I think, Harold and Maude, there's definitely a bit of that in there. The Last Detail as well, I was thinking of, especially with the trip to Boston, with them going on that trip that they're not really supposed to be going on, but they've got to break away from the prison that they've that they're sort of trapped in. I really enjoyed it. Not my favourite film of the year, and it's not my favourite film of the awards season, but I can see why it's getting a lot of love and why many people are calling it one of the best films of the year.
I mean, I think, as I say, for me, it was the script above and beyond any. I loved everything about it, but those witty one-liners that are just there. And they kind of float in the air for a second and then you move on.
Well,
I saw it at a packed press screening at the Picture House in Piccadilly. I was sat next to the girl who buys movies for Sky Movies. And it's one of the few press screenings I have been to where there was a round of applause at the end.
Nice.
That doesn't often, in fact, in my experience of 3 or 4 years now, regularly going to press screenings, probably once, 2 or 3 a month, that has never happened before.
Yeah.
So it was that was an interesting that the critics gave it that round of applause.
Yeah. It's got the best insult of the year. I don't think.
Oh, definitely got the best insult. Absolutely. I might.
This might be the insult that I'm knocked a half point off for.
Oh, really?
Well, I doubt I will be able to use it in my circles, but as somebody who is used to working at Christmas for obvious reasons. I did identify with the characters as well, Dan. Yeah.
No, I thought it was great. I think it was really great.
Scott, you've seen The Holdovers as well?
I have, and I have to echo what the other guys have said. It was a really funny movie. I thought the performances across the board were really good. I liked Dominic Sessa, who this is his first feature.
First feature film. That's a hell of a debut, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure how old he is, but as a sort of up and comer, he'll be one to look out for after this. I was sort of saying in our WhatsApp group just after we saw the Holdovers screening that I was tempted to put a prediction for him for supporting actor at the Oscars. I didn't, and it didn't happen for him, but I don't think he would have been far outside in the voting from that top 5.
According to Wikipedia, he was born in 2002/2003.
Oh my God.
So take your pick. So he's either 21 or 22. Good on Wikipedia. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, so Divine Joy Randolph is an interesting one because she has been picking up all the awards so far that she's been up for, and by all expectations, she's going to sweep the entire awards season. I'm not sure if I quite agree with that. I thought she was really good, but considering some of the other contenders for supporting actress, I'm surprised actually that it's such a sweeper from her, because I don't think she's that much better than a lot of the other supporting actresses around her. However, not to take anything away from her, she was fantastic in the film, and I'm very curious how this will boost her career going forward, because I don't really think I've seen her in much. There was it Lost City where she plays the PA for Sandra Bullock?
Might be. Yeah.
She plays a PA for someone. I think it was in The Lost City.
I think you're right.
And when I looked it up, that was the only thing that I think I've seen her in before.
Yeah. She was in United States versus Billie Holiday.
Oh, right.
Which was a film that I really enjoyed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was an interesting one. Yeah. So the Holdovers...
She actually didn't have an awful lot of lines, did she? But she did an awful lot of acting with her body, and she could get an amazing amount of emotion into the odd grunt.
I think it was the kitchen scene. I think that's the one that's going to clinch the Oscar.
Yeah.
I think
it was a subtle performance, but quite an interesting one. Yeah.
I don't know. I think I still would have liked to have seen Rosamund Pike in there. I think she would have been.
I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
If she got in,
we'll be on to the Oscars later.
Yes, we'll talk about that in more detail later. I think that this is one of those films that, as the guys have said, it will become a Christmas classic, and I am going to be very curious to watch it again. Dan's idea about it being in black and white does make me feel very interested, because I think that could work. I haven't even considered something like that, but yeah, it's one of those that was a good feel-good film. Not for everyone. I think there's some jokes that might be a little bit too much for some people that might expect something more family-friendly, but on the whole, I had a really good time with this, and I can see why it's been very popular.
Yep.
Sorry, Bob. I just said, didn't they re-release Parasite in black and white, and also
they released Mad Max Fury Road?
I saw
Mad Max did Parasite as well,
and they're
might be worth suggesting. Yeah, might be worth suggesting, Dan.
And they're re-releasing Godzilla -1 Color as well.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, this will be a good one to try. It could be another. It's a Wonderful Life at Christmas time. Yeah, I agree with everything you said, so I won't repeat that. It was also great to see Carrie Preston in that small role of the secretary come barmaid. I spent the whole film wondering, where the hell have I seen her? And she plays the ditzy lawyer in the TV series The Good Wife and The Good Fight, for any people who watched that series and loved it as we did. I thought the direction was really pacey, and I mean, interestingly, it's virtually the same length as The Color Purple, but I didn't once get bored or fidgety during this film, and I did during The Color Purple. And I loved the 70s styling at the beginning, the fact that they showed the BBFC certification card, AA certificate, and then we had the old 70s Universal logo, and the old logos from, what was it, Screen Gems and Miramax. I thought that was
as well,
really good, with lots of scrapey old scratches on the film. I thought that was terrific. I gave this one a 9 out of 10. And the reason I didn't give it a 10 out of 10, because I absolutely loved it, was the joke about cancer at the end. And I did the same thing for, I always forget the name of this thing, with Ryan Reynolds, something Guy. Free Guy.
Free Guy.
Where Taika Waititi comes out with that terrible ad lib about cancer in the middle of the film. Put me right off the film. Cancer is not funny in a comedy film.
Agreed.
It is not. And
No, agree.
For me, it was a great put down. It was a great line. In a drama series, it would have worked, but here, comedy, no, thank you very much. So I knocked a point off for that. So I gave it a 9 out of 10 in the end. It was very nice as well of Everyman Salisbury to actually screen this film in 4D, because with all the wonderful snow and ice on the ground in the film, they turned the temperature down to -7 in the Screen 1 auditorium, just to make you feel it. And so they did a great job there. Scores out of 10, Scott?
This is another 8 out of 10 for me.
Okay, 9 and an 8. And Andy?
I was going 10, but on reflection, Bob, about what you say, you have persuaded me to drop a point, and I'm going 9.
With the anti-cancer club, yeah.
Yeah,
and,
no, you just made me think, and yeah, 9.
Yeah, I'm an 8 as well.
You're an 8. That's 9 and 9 and 8 and 8. And Emma will very quickly tell me that's easy maths, and that is a Flickering Dreams score of 8.5, making the Holdovers a big hit. Good. Right, next up, we are going to be looking at another film, which is The End We Start From. And in the end, we start from the waters of the pregnant mother, played by Jodie Comer. Break in spectacular fashion, and London is submerged. No, those two things aren't directly associated. It's just coincidence. But this is a tense tale of a family fighting for survival. Here's a clip.
It isn't real anymore. Hi. What you missed doesn't exist.
What's going on? I'm just like having a moment, you know.
So I was reminded, I mean, all you young whippersnappers are not old enough to remember this, but I bet Andy does. If you were a teenager in the mid-70s, you will probably remember a BBC series called Survivors.
Oh, absolutely.
Which was
yeah,
by
absolutely.
Terry Nation. It screened in 2 series from
It was
1975
fantastic.
to 1977. And it was basically the apocalypse arriving in the form of a virus, very much like COVID-19, but a lot more deadly. And basically the relationships and how the few people that survived this thing survived in a Britain that was taken back to kind of the dark ages. Absolutely brilliant thing. It was kind of must-watch TV.
Great.
And this reminded me, as a film, a lot of that. It was kind of dystopian. It was kind of a disaster type film. But what really made this is it just has a absolutely brilliant cast. Jodie Comer that you saw there, Joel Fry, Mark Strong, Benedict Cumberbatch, Gina McKee that you again saw on the side of the frame in that clip, Nina Sasanya, and Catherine Waterston, who I thought this was one of the best performances of Catherine Waterston I've actually seen in a long time. And it's really a drama. This film, yes, it's got all of this disaster backdrop to it, but it's really a quite tight little claustrophobic drama, which is a funny word to use, claustrophobic, when most of it is actually set outdoors in the open countryside. But it feels quite tight and small and claustrophobic in the way it's done. And I think it's been brilliantly delivered for a budget of £9 million. I mean, we talked about the budget of Godzilla -1 being $15 million. This is about the same. And what they've managed to deliver in terms of the special effects and making London look submerged, and the street where they live completely battered and cars upturned and complete devastation. I think they've done a minor miracle on this film for the budget that they had available for it. It reminded me a bit in this respect of The Girl with All the Gifts, which was one of my favourite films from a few years ago, which again had an apocalyptic feel that was done on a very, very low budget, but they really kind of eked every pound out of their budget in order to make it look good. So we both heard the director and the writer of this. The writer is Alice Birch. I've completely forgotten who the director is.
Mahala Bello.
That's it. That's
it's a directorial debut, I think.
Yeah, directorial debut, and that really makes her a name to watch, I think, for this one.
Yeah.
So it was really good, and I was absolutely transfixed. Enjoyed this. The illustrious Mrs. Mann enjoyed this as well, even though she was a little bit worried about going to see a disaster movie featuring a baby. Thought she might get a bit upset, but no, she really loved this one as well. The one thing I thought was a little bit off with the story was that this event is seen as a kind of a one-off. I mean, there is an apocryphal warning behind this film of global warming, a warning about global warming that I thought was really good and solid. But at the end of the film, no spoilers here about how it ends, but it's almost as if treated we had some really weird weather and this is a one-off. And I think a better ending would have been to have said, look, global warming is a thing, and this thing is going to happen over and over and over again. So
well, I think that's the human race for you.
Yeah.
COVID could well happen over and over again, and nobody's...
Yeah. But I think there's something in here that it could have been a better film if it had somehow re-engineered things at the end. And I can't go into spoilers as to what happens at the end of that film. Who else has seen this one? Andy, you've seen this one as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I thought this does what great science fiction should do. It presents a message about the future, possible dangers that the human race is facing. I did think that the ending actually, Bob, was in a way typical, as I say, of the human race. We face a disaster, we come through it, and we think, okay, we'll deal with the next one when it arrives. We won't do anything in the meantime. I thought there were great performances. I was particularly pleased to see Gina McKee back on the screen after her towering performance in Typist Artist Pirate King, where she plays a pivotal role. Every film leads back to Typist Artist Pirate King, by the way.
There's still a fiver every time you mention it. Yeah.
But it does what great science fiction should do. It entertained, it gripped, it scared you, it made you think. There's some real genuine tense moments. You don't know how it's going to end right up until that moment. I thought the soundtrack was absolutely terrific. The music by Anna Meredith was really good. Again, the soundtrack
really good.
Downloaded, As you say, the special effects on a very low budget were impressive. The scenes at the end when some people are in a boat rowing through the streets of London, and St Paul's is there in the background and all the rest of it. I just thought that was so well done. You never for once got the impression you were looking at a green screen, unlike The Beekeeper and other much more big budget films. This was much more impressive.
Yes,
really.
It was.
So I thoroughly enjoyed great science fiction, thoughtful science fiction, low key, but really worth seeing.
Yep, indeed. Yep. Score out of 10?
8.
8. I gave it an 8 out of 10 as well.
Yep.
So that comes with a recommended from us, Flickering Dreams score of 8 out of 10. Making the end that we start from. It's not a very good title, is it? It's very difficult to keep in your head. It kind of
made sense towards the end.
The end from which we start. The end we start from. A 8 out of 10, making it a hit. Good. Right, let's take a quick look at the box office for this week. And there's been a change at the top.
Hey.
Whoa!
So, Wonka is no longer at the top of the chart. Look, Wonka has been moved down to number 2 after 7 weeks in the charts, and it's been replaced by Mean Girls. Second week in the chart, Mean Girls has made just over £3 million during that time, which looks dwarfed compared to Wonka's £58 million. But there you go. At number 3 in the chart, we got Poor Things, still doing decent business. Like I said, I really want to go and see Poor Things again to see if I want to up my rating on that film. Number 4, Andy's favourite, still holding up there, doing good business.
Who is going to see this?
Anyone but you.
I reckon Scott's been about 20 times.
I've just seen it once, but my work colleagues have been 3 times.
Really?
Yeah.
So when do they get their life back?
That's such a feel-good film, Andy. Just makes you happy.
It made me feel something.
I think the
Not
answer
good.
to this, Andy, is that everybody but you is going to see this film. Yeah. At number 5, we've got One Life, still doing good business in cinemas, slipping a little bit down the charts. Last week, it was a little bit higher, I think. At number 6, we've got the new entry of The Holdovers. Not doing a fantastic amount of business yet, only £700,000. So go out.
Not
and see
been
The
shown on a
Holdovers.
lot of screens, has it?
No, that's right. It
compared
had
to some.
quite a limited release last week.
Yeah.
I think I saw that Cineworld were promising a much wider release this week. So I think other cinema chains are maybe doing that as well.
I think as Oscars, as it gets closer to the Oscars, it will increase in screen. Sequences.
Yeah, so both my local Cineworlds didn't have it last week. They have got it this week, so I'm off to see that. That's tomorrow night.
Okay.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
At number 7, we've got that film we had a lot of fun with last week, The Beekeeper. Do a decent amount of business, over £2 million for Jason Statham there. At number 8, still hanging on in the chart, is Wish. In fact, it's gone up a place. I think it was down at number 9 or 10 last week.
There's nothing else for kids. There's nothing else for kids in cinema.
No.
Wonka?
Well, Wonka, but I bet most of the kids have already seen that.
I would imagine a lot of kids had already seen Wish. But...
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's probably 6 million of that is my granddaughter Eva going to see it again. At number 9 is the film that you were promoting last week, Dan, Queen Rock Montreal in IMAX. I imagine that probably had quite a decent ticket price, given it was an IMAX. So that's probably one of the reasons.
All I know about that is its run in America has been increased. So I think they're planning to increase because it was playing for 4 nights here, and I think it's become such a it's in the top 10. I think Pathé intend to increase its run in cinemas so more people can see it, just in general viewing rather than IMAX. But it's so cool that is in the top 10. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is good, isn't it? And at number 10 is The Boy and the Heron, still hanging in there. I still haven't seen The Boy and the Heron. I really want to try and get to see it before it disappears from cinemas. It's just so much new stuff coming out at the moment that I want to see as well. But that's made nearly £4.5 million at the box office, which is pretty damn good for a Japanese anime film, isn't it? So that's the chart this week, and we'll see. I'm not quite sure what's going to top the charts next week. Difficult to predict. Probably The Colour Purple, isn't it?
No, I think Mean Girls will stay in the top number 1.
Do you think?
Or maybe Wonka will go back to number 1. I think it's going to be between those two.
We'll see.
I've got my fingers crossed for All of Us Strangers.
I think you need
not enough people.
You need to have a lot of fingers crossed for that.
Yeah, that's opening tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, last film we're going to be looking at is on Netflix, and that is The Kitchen. Emma, do you want to introduce that to us?
Yeah, so we are in a dystopian London of...
Again?
I don't think... It's either 2044 or I just made that up in my head. But
in the 2040s, definitely, yeah.
So, dystopian London, and they've scrapped social housing, but there's one place called The Kitchen that people are still clinging on to their lives in. So here's a clip.
I'm getting out of this place.
It's our home.
Shit gets real. Saving myself.
So where do you live?
Kitchen.
Really like what it tastes like?
Yeah.
You say it by yourself.
Okay, Emma, do you want to carry on and give us your views of The Kitchen?
Yeah, so I wasn't really sure what to expect from this. Like the little clips I'd seen sort of reminded me of, things like The Raid and Dread to some degree. I have to say, I thought the whole atmosphere they'd managed to create within The Kitchen as a community was very good. You've got, very different people who are living essentially the same life on the edge, not really knowing what is going to happen to them, and they're home every time the police turn up to try and get rid of them. And watching that cycle throughout the film, I thought was very effective. Like I say, I enjoyed watching it. I did struggle with it. I don't think, for me, that it really not quite explained everything, but you were thrown into the mix of the kitchen and, you know, only a bit of the outside world from that. And I don't think I could really grasp from it how it came to be, how, you know, the dynamics of it all, which, you know, is fine, but I had an issue with that. I just wasn't quite as engaged because I wasn't seeing the full story. I did think the two sort of main people in it, whose names I can't remember.
Kane Robinson, and the youngster was played by Jediah Bannerman, who I thought did a really good job.
Yeah, the dynamic between them both, I did love. That was great all the way through. But yeah, just let me down on, I think, some of the story behind it. And plus, also, like, you throw in a bit of Ian Wright randomly, and that really distracted me every time I heard his voice or he came on screen. But that's just me.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. Dan?
Yeah, I thought this was fantastic. Last week we were talking about what was that horrible film, Lift, with Kevin Hart, made for Netflix. But I said it was just a film that was made, you know, purely for content, to fill the algorithm, to go wrong. This doesn't feel like that. This feels like a film with a proper artistic vision. Directed first time direction by Daniel Kaluuya, who was Academy Award nominated star for Get Out and then won for Judas and the Black Messiah. I think the world building in this is absolutely fantastic. Like the best science fiction does, it uses the future as a mirror, but not really a mirror, but like what's the word? This is what's probably going to happen if we're not careful. You know, this is like this is where we're headed if we don't watch what we're doing. And watching it, I was instantly reminded of, visually I was reminded of the more intense moments in Ben Wheatley's High Rise, which is similarly set in everything, but, you know, the much darker, lower floors of High Rise, as well as The Raid, which you talked about, Emma. The fact that the co-director Kibwe Katwez is a architect, I think is a big deal, because the world building is fantastic, and you've got these skyscrapers that tower above the Shard over the London skyline, and it really sets up this idea that there's a lot of money out there. It's just not in this place. And when these raids do happen, they are genuinely really, really scary. And I mean, I don't say it flippantly, but the final moments of a door being banged down. This is going to sound really, really hyperbolic, but it reminded me of watching an adaptation of something like The Diary of Anne Frank, almost. Like these people being taken away from something, you know, trying to escape oppression, but knowing that it's going to find them no matter what they do. Loved the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was great. I thought the performances were really good. And I really liked Ian Wright. I thought Ian Wright was really good.
I did
yes,
too.
It was a surprise to find him in there. But I think he was like the voice of he was the voice of the community. He was the voice of hope amongst all the oppression and the prejudice. And watching it, you can't help but be reminded of like the Windrush scandal that's been going on, and these people who have been living here, you know, for the majority of their lives are now being herded out like cattle or vermin by a government who finds them to be more of a nuisance than, you know, as valued members of society. I thought it was a very powerful film. A bit slow in some parts. I think some of the pacing dipped in the second half, and the emotion of the performances at the centre of it by Kane Robinson and Jedidiah Bannerman didn't have the same heft for me as the overall arching narrative of the people trapped inside this kitchen, in this tower block called the kitchen. But I thought it was a very effective piece of work, and I can't wait to see what Daniel Kaluuya will do again as a director in the future.
Yeah. Apparently, he's been working on this film for like
10 years or something. Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a real passion project for him. Andy, anything to add?
Yeah, I felt very much like this as I did about the end from which we start, or whatever it's called. We're in London again in the near future. There's been a catastrophe. As Emma said, social housing has been got rid of. These people are living in this tower block called the kitchen. I thought Ian Wright's radio DJ announcer was really great. I felt it helped keep everything together. I thought he was kind of trying to be the voice of optimism in a really dire situation, and I had to blink twice. So is that really Ian Wright? I was checking the cast listings when I was watching it to make sure it was really him. But I thought he was really good. I thought that the story. I don't think we need. I'll disagree with everyone. I don't think we needed a backstory. I think we were just thrown into it. I think we could just immediately assume what had happened, where we were. We didn't need to waste time. The film's 107 minutes long. We didn't need to waste time with the backstory in a sense, and that we immediately got where we were. The funeral scenes very much reminded me of Soylent Green, in the way that they were handled and the way the funerals take place.
Well, it was.
And again, Soylent Green is about overcrowding in a big city. So I was thinking Soylent Green. Film with the worst trailer ever, by the way, because the trailer shows the end scene. So do not watch the trailer before you watch Soylent Green.
Well, in many ways, Andy, this was soil and green.
It was. It really was. And I thought
Little pun there.
I get it. I thought it was great, thoughtful science fiction. Again, very low key, but what they achieved, obviously, on a pretty low budget. I particularly enjoyed the scenes where the drones are flying over the kitchen and they're taking turns and having pot shots at them. I thought that was really well done. And again, a scenario that you can envisage happening. I was sort of thinking, like you say, Dan, of the Windrush. I was thinking of Grenfell. What's happened to the people there? Where are they being moved to? Where are they living? There's still many people not being rehoused. So I thought this was a believable, realistic scenario in a near future London. And I found it totally engrossing. Really good sci-fi.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you said. I again thought Ian Wright was really good as the DJ. And there's a moment in this film where, let's say, the broadcasting stops, which I think is a very powerful bit of cinema. And I think Ian Wright did it very well indeed. And I like the way, science fiction, the danger of science fiction where you roll forwards 20 years is that there's going to be flying cars whizzing around kind of Blade Runner style. And I thought the futurizing of this was really quite nice, and that the future was kind of painted on the present and quite cleverly as well. So when our lead character gets into his new apartment, you think, God, that's a swanky apartment overlooking the Thames and London Eye and so on. How much did he pay for that? Right. And then later in the film, he kind of presses a button and he goes from his London view to Paris view. And you realize this room doesn't have any windows at all. It's some anonymous block that's, so I thought that was really clever.
It's interesting that one of the first things I knew Daniel Kaluuya from was an episode of Black Mirror. And I think even though he was only in one episode, I think it's very clear that Charlie Brooker's view of the future and the way he uses technology to really kind of portend what will happen in the future, I think that's definitely rubbed off on him in making this film and his vision for the film as well.
It's a bit bleak, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, overall, it's a bit of a downer, isn't it? As a film, it's not the most happy, clappy film in the world, but I thought it was very well done. I gave this one a 7 out of 10. Emma?
6 for me.
Andy?
8 for me.
And Dan?
7.
That's 15, 22, 28 divided by 4. Yes. Another easy one. So that's a Flickering Dreams score of 7.0, making The Kitchen, I think Daniel Kaluuya will be very happy with us, a hit.
This is the kind of film that Netflix needs to be putting out.
Yeah, agreed.
I agree. Thoughtful film, proper film.
It's not doing massively well, sort of review-wise on...
No,
that will all change after this podcast goes out.
Yeah, you go.
But it would have done a lot worse. It would have done a lot worse box office wise. This wouldn't have seen the inside of a multiplex.
No.
It's a much bigger audience on Netflix.
It did close out the London Film Festival, didn't it? As a film, so it's first showing. I didn't get to see it there. Right, we're going to move on to a couple of films, Andy, which only you've seen. We'll just do a quick 30-second summary and a score, if you would. The first one is a film called Padre Pio.
Yeah, so in cinemas, selected cinemas as from the 26th of January. This is Abel Ferrara's new film, who he directed The Driller Killer and King of New York. It's a film about a priest in an Italian village in 1920 who reportedly did miracles and was later made a saint by the Roman Catholic Church.
It feels like a sin to be angry with the Lord.
There is no greater love than this, to give one's life for one's friends.
It's a very dramatic film. It's got a very shocking ending as people from the village join the Workers' Socialist Party, and the authorities don't like that. There is a dramatic, deadly scene at the end. Worth seeking out, and it stars Shia LaBeouf as the priest. So worth seeing in selected cinemas as from the 26th.
Okay, score out of 10?
I gave it an 8. I thought it was
An 8.
really good, really powerful.
The next film you want to talk about is one of Mark Commode's favourites. It's Scala! !
Yeah, I love films about cinemas and cinema. And this is about a documentary about the infamous Scala cinema that was in King's Cross, opened in King's Cross through the 70s and 80s.
The screen's stained with beer, the whole place shakes when the tubes run. Sound system's crap, but we love it. Mark Moore at the Scala.
People went there to watch films, but they also went there to do a lot of other things as well. In the corridors, in the bathroom, in the back passage, even in the cinema. The cinema had its own cat that would jump on people during... Yes, the cinema had its own cat that would jump on people during screenings, and made them scream. It showed everything from King Kong to, classics like Gone with the Wind. You name it, they showed it. All-nighters were a regular thing at this cinema. And one of the cleaners is interviewed, and it's very interesting to hear about some of the things she found after all-night screenings when she was doing the cleaning. But if you're at all interested in the history of British cinema, it's on the BFI player. Do watch Scala. It's a really fascinating documentary about what was really quite a notorious cinema. Kim Newman and other critics are in it. Some of the people who attended there are in it. Do see it. It's on the BFI player. Good Scala. We'll see.
Score out of 10?
It's a really great documentary. 8. I can't, yeah.
Another 8.
Really worth seeing.
So, on to any other business. And of course, this week we had the Oscars come out. Andy, you could snooze in the corner for a minute.
You're on your own, guys.
Yeah. I'm not going to go through all 18 categories. We may get to some of the other ones next week, but I did want to just flash up here some of the major categories that we've got. Best Picture. And as we talked about last week, Scott and I had a little competition with the nominations as to who could accurately predict the 105 places that were up for grabs in all but the short categories. And both Scott and I accurately predicted the Best Picture list for this year. I've just remembered I was supposed to have dug out what our way too early Oscar predictions were from earlier in the year, and I haven't done that. I'll do that for the next episode. But the Best Picture list nominations for those listening on audio are American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. And the only one of those I haven't yet seen is The Zone of Interest, because I didn't see the preview screening this week. We'll review that next week because it's due out a week tomorrow, I believe. But that's a really solid set of Best Picture films, and can't really argue with any of those. I would sit down and watch any of those over again. So
it's so good to see a film as commercial as Barbie in the Best Picture category.
Yeah.
Probably often the highest grossing films of the year, unless it's Avatar, ends up in the Best Picture category.
Yep.
So,
can't argue with that. So next category is Best Actor. And for Best Actor, again, maybe not. Well, maybe one or two surprises. We've got Bradley Cooper for Maestro. We've got Coleman Domingo, who we were just talking about there, The Color Purple, but here he's nominated for Rustin. We've got Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. We've got Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. And we've got Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction, which again we'll review next week because it's out on February the 2nd. Maybe surprise there is that Leo DiCaprio isn't nominated for Killers of the Flower Moon.
No Barry Keoghan for Saltburn.
Nope. Saltburn has been completely overlooked by the Academy, which is probably my biggest issue with the Academy. So that was a bit of a surprise. I think
Godzilla, it's ridiculous.
Well, Godzilla did
we did get Godzilla for visual effects.
Godzilla did get a nomination.
I remember
for
best
visual
actor.
effects.
That was never going to
Yeah,
happen.
I know.
No chance.
I thought Godzilla was fantastic in it.
Exactly.
Nailed best actor.
Stole the film.
We're not going to do our Oscar predictions. We'll save that until nearer the date, beginning of March. But I still think this is probably Cillian Murphy's to lose.
Yeah.
But Paul Giamatti is probably like we were saying earlier. Any other year, Paul Giamatti would have probably walked away with that one.
Yeah.
And in terms of best actress, we've got Lily Gladstone, who didn't get a BAFTA nomination, but she is nominated for Killers of the Flower Moon. We've got Annette Bening for Nyad, and I did finally this week get to watch Nyad, and I have to say it's a stunning performance from both Annette Bening and Jodie Foster in that film. Well deserved, I think, as a nomination. Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. Now, I just wonder whether there might be an upset for this one, because, I mean, all the running is definitely with Lily Gladstone to win this. She wouldn't actually be my personal choice for winning this one. I just wonder whether Emma Stone might stand a chance of pipping.
I think she will.
This for that.
I think she will. It's just shocking.
Sure.
I know it's been talked about to death. I just cannot believe that Margot Robbie is not on that list. It's just shocking.
Who would you drop off?
That's hard to say because I haven't seen all the films. But I mean, to be honest, what I've heard about Maestro, it seems like a film that people didn't love, but they admired more than they liked. And Carey Mulligan isn't really in the spotlight as much as Bradley Cooper is. Maybe Carey Mulligan and swap her out for Margot Robbie, but I can't say I've not seen the film.
I just say this is one of my problems with award ceremonies: the inconsistencies that you see.
Yeah.
And Ryan Gosling has come out. I think he's got a nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
And has come out and said he's really upset that Margot Robbie didn't get a nod for Barbie. And the inconsistencies every year stagger me.
Well, I guess
it's just one of the problems.
I mean, they are individual categories, and that's what I always say when you get people saying, "Well, why wasn't so and so nominated?" You say, "Well, who are you going to drop out the list? Was it a better performance than the one that you're dropping out of the list?" And it's a very subjective view, but it's very difficult.
That's my problem.
Yeah.
Next category we've got is Best Supporting Actress, and here we've got Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks, who we were just talking about, for The Color Purple, America Ferrera for Barbie, Jodie Foster for Nyad, and Divine Joy Randolph, who, again, we were talking about earlier, for The Holdovers. I guess the surprise in this list for me was America Ferrera for Barbie.
Same.
Yeah, she has this.
I just once again, Rosamund Pike, Saltburn.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Take out Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, because as much as I liked Oppenheimer, it was in my top 10 films of the year, the female characters were really, really mistreated in that film.
I thought they were fairly poorly written.
Yeah, take Emily Blunt out, as much as I love Emily Blunt, and put in Rosamund Pike for Saltburn instead.
Yeah.
It was a much more interesting performance.
Yeah. So again, I think it's interesting that America Ferrera's in there. I mean, she does have that impassioned kind of speech in the middle of the film, but
it absolutely would have been my guess that she'd have appeared even in a top 10.
Of just about all of these nominations, I mean, I was kind of nodding along as they were being announced, but that one made me go, "Oh, really?" Yeah, that was one of the few that I really wasn't sure about. Moving on to Best Supporting Actor, and here we're going to get Ryan Gosling. Again, is nominated as Ken for Barbie. Sterling K. Brown is nominated for American Fiction, and I must say, having seen the film, I think that's pretty well deserved as well. Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. I think the one that I object to in that one is Mark Ruffalo. We talked about Poor Things last week. I mean, it's a comedic role, which you don't normally see Mark Ruffalo in, but I personally didn't think it deserved a Best Supporting Actor.
Would you have given it to Willem Dafoe instead?
I would have given it to Willem Dafoe instead, yeah. In order of ranking of the acting performances, I would put Mark Ruffalo below both Willem Dafoe and Emma Stone.
I think that's going to be an upset on the night. I think people are going to be shocked by how that one's going to go. I don't think that
Really?
I don't think that one's in the bag for anyone. I don't think.
I would.
No, see, I would have said that was a.
Robert Downey Jr. or Gosling for me. I think
Downey seems to have it right now.
I would have said
I think
Downey's
Robert
got
Downey
it.
Jr. is probably favourite for that.
I'd love to see Gosling win, though. That'd be amazing.
I'm just we're not going to have this in this section, but the original song "I'm Just Ken" has been nominated, so that is going
He's
to be
got to
fun
perform
see
it on the night, surely.
performed on the night. Yeah, that's probably why they nominated it.
I just wanted Jack
Let's
Black
get
to sing
people
Peaches.
watching.
That's what I wanted.
On to Best Director, and this has Anatomy of a Fall with Justine Triet, Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese, Oppenheimer for Christopher Nolan, Poor Things Yorgos Lanthimos, and The Zone of Interest, Jonathan Glazer. Again, I guess one of the surprises here, I mean, there was an opportunity this year, I think, to put in 3 different female directors. They've got Justine Triet in there, but there's nothing in here for names have gone completely.
Greta
Poor
Gerwig.
Things.
Greta
Celine
Gerwig.
Song.
Celine Song,
Nothing
yeah.
in here for Greta Gerwig.
Nothing for Emerald Fennell. Nothing.
Nothing for Emerald Fennell, although given Saltburn's been completely
Yeah, no,
pissed
I'm not
over by the
surprised, yeah.
Academy, not likely, is it? But I think this was a potential opportunity, as good as Yorgos Lanthimos and Jonathan Glazer is, to really make a statement by having the majority of the directors as female directors. So, again, I think Past Lives has been somewhat overlooked here by the Academy, which I think is a shame.
It's really interesting about Greta Gerwig that she's the only director. She's directed 3 films, and all 3 of them have been nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, indeed. And the final one we're looking at in this slot is Best International Film. We got Io Capitano from Italy. We got Perfect Days from Japan. We've got Society of the Snow from Spain. We've got The Teacher's Lounge from Germany. And we've got, interestingly enough, for an international film, The Zone of Interest from the UK. I mean, it's an interesting title for this category of Best International Feature, not Best Feature, not in the English language, which would make perhaps more sense. For
That was produced in conjunction with the Polish equivalent of the BFI. So maybe they should have entered it as being from Poland.
France really missed a trick on this one, nominating The Taste of Things instead of Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because Anatomy of a Fall would have won if they'd put it up.
Yeah, I think so. But the fact is, Best Picture nomination. Interestingly,
Outside.
Zone of Interest.
Outside,
Zone of
maybe.
Interest, of course, is in
Yeah,
Best Picture
exactly.
category and Best International Feature. So you'd have to think. I mean, I haven't seen all of these. I've not. In fact, I've only seen one of these so far, so I'm very unsighted of this category. But I love Society of the Snow. I thought that was a terrific film. But it'd be difficult to see this not going to the Zone of Interest, wouldn't it? Given that that listing. So that is the Oscars. We're cracking on with time here, so I better press on.
You've upset me not including the animated feature film list.
Yeah, we'll get to that next week. All right, Emma, because Andy needs his beauty sleep, but he doesn't need that much.
No, I
beauty
just
sleep.
had it during that section.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I didn't want you dozing off completely and starting to snore.
I had a nap.
So, can I say something little, please, Andy, about awards?
Yes.
The Razzie Awards were also nominated, announced this week, and The Exorcist Believer was up for Worst Picture.
I did notice that.
Good. So it should be
so was the Meg
well
too.
deserved. The Razzies are for me the only ones I actually do take any interest in.
But isn't Ben Wheatley the worst director for the Meg 2?
Ben Wheatley is.
Oh, that's such a shame.
And Jason Statham, I think, as the actor.
If they include anyone but you in there.
For the mother.
But I mean, strictly speaking, it should be my big fat Greek wedding vomit-inducing
I
pile
think
of
that's
Kobusaka
been poorly overlooked. Poorly
That
overlooked
has
by the
been
Razzies.
definitely overlooked.
Yeah, indeed. Just another few quick things. Just to flag that there is an excellent podcast on. Well, I'd listen to it on Spotify, but it's called Countdown to the BAFTAs. It's by Alex Zane.
Hang on, Bob. Are you saying there are other movie podcasts out
I
there?
am saying there are other
Wow.
movie podcasts. This is
Right.
just
That's
a
a lie.
temporary
Yeah, it's a
one.
vicious rumour.
A vicious rumour. But Countdown to the BAFTAs looks at in each episode at each of the shortlisted films for Best Picture at the BAFTAs. And interestingly, they spend their time interviewing, in the main, the producers of the film. And I've listened to a few of them now. I've listened to Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Poor Things. And they were really good listens, each about 45 minutes long. But just flag that for your attention, dear viewers/listeners. Also, just a flag, we don't review TV series or box sets on this podcast, but out tomorrow on Apple TV is the latest Steven Spielberg wartime production. He, of course, made Band of Brothers and The Pacific, which were all gripping 10-part series. And out tomorrow is Masters of the Air, in which we find that the RAF weren't needed at all, and America could come and save the day by winning World War II using their bomber command. So that's coming to Apple tomorrow and is probably a very good watch.
I was going to say, can we just say one more thing just to commemorate the passing of director Norman Jewison, who passed away this week, director of Rollerball and In the Heat of the Night, and Moonstruck, Fiddler on the Roof. Very, very prolific Canadian-American director. Yeah.
Thank you for flagging. I was completely unaware that he'd passed, so I clearly missed that. Norman Jewison. Yeah, rest in peace. Very fine director. I also promised, on a completely different note, to revisit Mean Girls in terms of the scoring, because I kind of pissed all over this film from a great height. And I gave it a 6 out of 10, I think, and declared it a miss. And Emma and Scott, you've been to see it. Did you have alternate views?
I believe we did. Yeah, I did manage to catch this. What I will say, not on the topic of the film, quite. It was the worst audience I think I've ever had the displeasure of being with. It was just hideous. Like, don't let tweens go to these films on their own. Just don't.
Okay.
The amount of people in there who did not realise it was a musical was shocking. And again, I can kind of see why they didn't advertise it that way, but I really think they should have let a little something slip in the trailers. I really enjoyed myself. Like, all of the musical scenes, absolutely adored. I loved the pairing of Damien and Janice. I thought they were fantastic throughout together. I really I've forgotten her name, haven't I? The one who plays Regina. I just
Renee Rapp. Renee Rapp.
I just don't necessarily think they're quite the right songs for her. But I thought she did incredibly well. The one, like, out of all of them, and I know you didn't particularly like her in that, Bob, but actually the girl who plays Katie Heron,
Angourie Rice,
I did not find that part suited her. And talking to my friend who's a massive theatre buff, she says they're not, like, she's like massive in musical theatre, and it's not the sort of songs that they usually have her sing. So she sort of agreed, like, they weren't the right songs for her. So I think they've tried to shoehorn some people into the roles they feel like they should have had.
Okay.
And interesting to note that the girl who plays Gretchen, is actually Regina in the musical itself.
Oh, is she? Right.
I believe it's that way around. And I thought she was amazing in her scenes as well.
Yeah, I thought she was good. Yeah. Okay. Score out of 10, Emma?
It's like a 9.
Okay. Scott, anything to add?
Yeah, so I had a whale of a time with this one. I thought it was so much fun. The music was really catchy. I really enjoyed the songs in this one. I thought it was really clever. And the performances, again, I quite like them all. The friend Janice, can't remember her name now, but she plays Moana in the Disney film. Cavallo, yeah. I think she was stunning. Like, her acting, she was best actor in the film and by far the best singer in the film as well. That's probably one of my favourite supporting actress performances of the year, actually. I loved her in this film. It's so vibrant. The colours everywhere popping, the cinematography. There's a party scene as well when the camera's going around and there's so much going on. The costumes, there's so many costumes that I think in another year you might have seen that pop up at awards ceremonies as well. But obviously not this year.
Beg to disagree.
I don't think I can agree with that statement.
Fair enough.
Mark out of 10. Mark out of 10, Scott.
It's another 8.
It's an 8. So that's 17. Plus my 6 is 23. Divided by 3 now makes 7.66 for the Flickering Dreams score, which I will roll over.
Redemption!
And change my miss.
It's
to an
Sorex
overall
all over again, Scott.
hit.
Yes, it is indeed.
Here's your hit. Right.
Thank you.
Tonight.
Stop trying to make
That's
me
Mean
happy,
Girls.
Bob.
Mean Girls Revisited. Okay. So that's our lot for Flickering Dreams. I'm off to watch the penultimate episode of The Traitors, which I can't believe you all aren't following. I think it's a great series. But we will see you again next week for Flickering Dreams. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening or watching Flickering Dreams. You can find the video version on YouTube and the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get each of the weekly episodes as they are released. We'll see you at the movies.